My mom died when I was 7. My father remarried a year later. His new wife had 3 kids, A, B, and C. He said she wanted a dad for her kids, and he wanted a mom for me. I remember telling him I didn't want a new mom. He said I would understand later. My father basically stopped doing anything alone with me. No more camping nights in the backyard or movie nights, which we had done every week for years. Nothing. He spent time with all his new kids to bond. It's been 11 years, and he still doesn't have time for me because he's bonding with them. He stopped coming to my games when I got to high school. His wife and I have nothing in common. I play 3 sports, and I'm on the speech team. She's very girly and likes girl trips to buy clothes and makeup at different malls. She knows I don't want to go, but just tells my father that she invited me. I have a teammate I play 2 sports with. Her parents have become like my own. She said she is totally fine with it. I make sure all the time because I don't want to take someone else's parents. But she's always the one to invite me over, brings her parents to my swim meets because she knows no one will be there for me, invited me to go shopping for Mother-Father Day gifts, and says they're from both of us. Her parents get me holiday gifts and say I'm always welcome. Senior night at basketball, I told her my father isn't going to walk me around the floor because he doesn't even come to games. She asked her dad to walk both of us, and he was happy to. In a small town, that made the paper because they thought it was sweet. My father flipped out and took us all to therapy. He asked why he hadn't been asked. I said because he didn't come to games. He said he didn't know I played basketball anymore. I asked if that's why he didn't come to swim or softball when he couldn't miss A and B's practices, or come to speech meets when he went to C's dance recitals. He just stared at me and said he didn't know I still did those either. I asked why he talked for days about B's camping trip but didn't ask about my senior trip to Mexico. He said he didn't know I went. I said he signed the form. He admitted he didn't read it. I asked if he remembered the last time I called him Dad. He said he didn't know I stopped. I said May 13th, 2021. He said that was the day A, B, and C started. I said, I know. You stopped being my dad when you started being theirs. I walked out of therapy. Edit. I played all 3 since I was a toddler, so I'm not sure why he thought I stopped. He never asked why I came home a couple hours after practice or went out on weekends for game days. When I talked about games, he said he thought I was just playing with friends because all my friends play. Update got deleted. Basically, I'm getting some info on my trust and belongings it paid for. My friend's dad tried to confront my father about why I can't go over anymore, but he just shut the door on him, and I check in daily with my friend or her parents via phone. My step-siblings are all mad at both their parents and are being very supportive. Now for a few important comments. When asked how she feels about her father and her friend's family, she said, "At this point, I'm more angry that I have to miss practices for therapy and that I'm no longer allowed over to my friend's house because they're a bad influence. I'm happy he found his new family and I found mine. I'd be content with going no contact with them to have my real family back. I miss them so much. When I told him I felt like I lost my family, he cried and said he understood, then got mad and yelled at me when I told him I meant the family I had for the last few years, not him. When asked how her dad didn't know she still did sports, she said, I paid for the sports registration and equipment out of the trust my mom left me. I just had to go to the bank and write out a request, and the next day I'd pick up the money. He said if I wanted him there, I should have given a schedule. I told him that I don't understand why he would think I would just stop playing all the sports I had played since I was a toddler, and that he didn't get schedules from my step-siblings. He got them himself. Then he just got mad and walked out. When asked how her dad didn't know she went to Mexico and how she got a passport without a parent, she said, I had to have the form signed at the beginning of the year for numbers planning for the teacher. I was 17. I got my passport after my birthday before the trip and paid for it out of my mom's trust fund. He knew I went on a trip but didn't know where to. She also said, I'll probably do an update soon, but basically, I'm not allowed to go to my friend's house anymore because he says her parents are a bad influence. He says I never told him anything about what I did, so he shouldn't be expected to know. His wife says she just wanted a dad for her kids, and it isn't her fault, which is true. My step-siblings have been nice and said they thought he knew about my games and would be totally okay with him skipping theirs to come to my remaining games. They have been more mad at him than anything else and told him if he can't go to mine, then he doesn't need to go to theirs. And he said they were being brats, but they don't care. Now for the 4-day update. After my last post, my stepmother wanted us all to go to the lake house. That's her happy place, safe space, sanctuary, she says, and it's her answer to everything. Wants the boys out. She sends my father and her sons to the lake house. Time with her daughter. Lake house. Time alone, lake house by herself. She does photography there, and she's right. It does look like a postcard. 2-story, cabin style. They never took me for the girls' trips or boy trips, only when everyone went together. My step-siblings won't call my father dad anymore. My stepmother said, if he isn't their dad and she isn't my mom, why are they even married? My father asked if she wanted a divorce, and she said she didn't sign up for the drama. They argued, and we went to hang out by the lake. We've been getting along great now, against the parents, which I didn't see coming. We went back to therapy yesterday, and my stepsister brought up whether they are getting divorced. Bio-father said not, if they can work it out in therapy. The therapist asked if it could be amicable because it's obvious they're cold to each other. Stepmother said her kids could see Bio-father, but she would just want her place. He said that wasn't possible because it's actually mine since my mom had it before they were married, and it's part of the prenup. Stepmother was livid and ugly, cried. She was mad all the way home. Then she asked about the house we live in. Bio-father tried to get her out of the kitchen, but she screamed, and he admitted that my grandpa gave it to my mom as a wedding gift before they were married. It turns out he won't let me move out because the house is actually mine since I turned 18. She said to split the savings because they had been living way below their means. He told her most of the savings and certificates of deposits were accounts set up for me by my mom's parents. She has been crying in her room and says I'm selfish for not letting her have the lake house my great-grandpa built and gave to my grandpa, who gave it to my mom. Now for a few important comments. One commenter said, "What in the world?" So she never put a cent towards those, and somehow never asked herself in all those years how the assets would be split in the event of a divorce. I replied, I doubt she ever thought about divorce until last week. Everything kind of exploded. Since they don't have a prenup, she probably thought she got half of everything. Now for a new update. A lot of people have been asking how things are going, way more than I expected. So here we go. I'm about to leave for college. Yay. As of right now, my bio-father and his wife, for now, are still living in my house and paying rent. I got a lawyer, and they suggested retroactive rent as well. This will only go back to my 18th birthday when I officially own the house. My lawyer got me in touch with a good accountant that he uses for cases like this, who went over everything that is in my trust and savings with the person at the bank who oversaw giving me my allowances from my trust. My bio-father hadn't taken any money directly from my accounts because they were unavailable until I turned 18, except for the one I used for daily use. I always got receipts that came out even, so I'm not worried about those. I did learn more about the property I own. This actually came out before the lawyer and accountant because my stepmother wanted some other property that's mine. There is a beach house she wanted and a smaller house that gets rented out, and the money goes to one of my accounts. She was furious she doesn't get either. She and my bio-father bicker, and honestly, it's hilarious. For example, her, "Why didn't you ever tell me that none of the money was yours?" Him, "If money was so important to you, why didn't you ever get a job?" Also, I may get their cars because my bio-father had terrible credit and used my house to get the loan as collateral. Same with the boat. She's a lot madder than him. My step-siblings don't even speak to my bio-father anymore because they feel like he made them the bad guys. And I told them he didn't, and it wasn't their fault at all. Now for a few more comments. One commenter asked, "Are you able to see your bestie and her family again?" I replied, "Yep, I visit with them a lot. There's really nothing he can do to stop me now. He can say that I can't take anything from the house, but since it's my house, that isn't a problem anymore. Another commenter suggested, maybe you should invite your friend and her family over for dinner. I would love to hear about your father's reaction to that. I responded, I don't live in the house anymore, so I don't eat dinner there either, lol. Am I the idiot for telling my father his wife isn't welcome at my wedding and not backing down? I have a rough relationship with my dad's wife, Ely. They got together in 2006, married in 2011, and have had 2 children since then. Ellie has never liked me. I was introduced to her when I was 7, and things were instantly sour. She was mean, snarky, and had no interest in me whatsoever. Now, as an adult, I can tolerate her behavior, which has gotten significantly worse as I've grown up and began to talk back. The issue lies with the fact that my dad has always allowed it. I'm a grown woman and can handle myself now, as I've been doing for years. But when I was a child, he had nothing to say about her borderline resentment, hurtful behavior, and will find ways to change the subject, excuse it whenever it's brought up. This has significantly damaged our relationship, and we're low contact as of now. So, I'm getting married in November this year to James. We've been together for 11 years. Ellie is insistent that she will be there. She will not. I have made this clear since we got engaged in November 2023. My dad is invited, but I made it plainly clear last year that she wasn't welcome as a result of her behavior, attitude, and treatment of the both of us. It's worth mentioning here that James also doesn't want E present, as she is discriminatory. James is trans, FTM, and Ellie will dead name him, make comments about it all, and is overall hateful. He is also defensive of me, given that he has been with me for the majority of Ellie's treatment. So, my dad met with me last week and told me that if Ellie wasn't present at my wedding, he wouldn't be either. I honestly expected something like this to happen, so I said that it was fine. He was confused and asked me to elaborate, so I explained that he didn't have to attend, but it meant that I would never speak to him again, that I had dealt with him choosing Ellie over me for almost 20 years, and that my wedding, of his first and only daughter, being a subject of debate, was the final straw. He said nothing for a moment afterwards and then got up and left. Ellie has been blowing up my phone with explicit texts, but it's been radio silence from my dad since our chat. As I said, I've dealt with Ellie's treatment, and by extension, my dad's silence for almost 2 decades. My wedding feels like a good place to finally end this all, to start over. I don't see a way to fix this or our relationship as long as he's with Ellie. Am I the jerk for telling my dad I don't care if he's present at my wedding? Now for a few important comments. There's been no effort of apology or reconciliation. It's strange that Ellie would even want to be at the wedding anyway. I responded, she can't handle that. My dad will be somewhere she isn't. It's a habit of hers to take him away from my special events. She doesn't truly want to be there. She just doesn't like that I told her no, and that my dad had an invitation so he would be where she wasn't. She has a habit of breaking boundaries and finding ways to get under my skin, so her being at my wedding after I objected would have been another I had my way and you had to suck it up moment for her. That's why I'm finally putting my foot down, no matter what it takes, amidst other reasons. What do both Ellie and your dad have to say in regards to the reasons for you choosing not to invite Ellie because of her hurtful treatment towards you? I replied, Ellie is making a song and a dance of it. She knows she's vile towards me, but will deny it to people we don't know and claim we have a strained relationship. She's told me I'm attempting to divide her and my dad by saying one can attend but the other can't, and giving my dad ultimatums to hurt him. My dad has never been able to acknowledge her treatment and will find ways to change the subject / excuse it. So he's claiming that by denying Ellie a place at my wedding, I'm starting unnecessary drama and causing a scene. I've reiterated that I don't want her there because of her behavior, but he's saying that I'm only doing this to get back at him. So has your dad ever directly acknowledged anything you've pointed out about her behavior towards you? When you confront Ellie directly, Does she acknowledge what you have to say about her behavior? If they try to smear you online, I say put them on blast and publicly list what she's done. Maybe threaten them with that if they continue. I answered, to a degree. I have said the words, she treats me like shoot to him, and he has said, you're blowing it out of proportion. My take is that he knows exactly what she says and does. He's been present for most of her behavior, but he dumbs it down out loud for her sake, to defend her, if that makes sense. He's a coward. I established that long ago. Why haven't you blocked Ellie? I said, I have. She finds other ways. She messages me from my dad's phone, or on more than one occasion, she uses other people's phones to contact me. I can't always get out of seeing her in person either, i.e., events, gatherings, etc. Commenter. So your dad let her treat you badly growing up and lets her use his phone to continue to come at you. Why don't you block him too? Do you think she would have treated you like that if he hadn't allowed it? I explained. Hard to say, as that's unfortunately not how things happened. After moving out, I went low contact with my dad and no contact with Ellie. As best as I could. Good question, actually. It's taken me a while to fully build up the confidence to be point blank and tell him that I'm done. Inviting him to my wedding, for example, I felt more obligated than excited. That was a clear sign for me that things were needing to change, more than I already knew it. Did he seem upset when you said you would cut him off? I replied, no, just shocked-ish. I've mentioned in passing over the past few years, after turning 18, that I would cut him off if he did XYZ, but this is the first time I feel as though he's taken it seriously. I think he's realized it's not an empty threat. And what does Ellie say? Why does she think you have a strained relationship? I responded, she doesn't actually think it's strained. It's a white lie to protect her reputation and hide what she knows. That she's horrible to me and always has been. She's aware of her behavior and my dad's stance on it, hence why it's continued, as she knows she'll get away with it. Now for the 2-month update. Firstly, thank you all so very much. The overwhelming amount of advice, support, feedback, and kind words meant more than you could ever know. My wedding was just over a week ago, and it was absolutely perfect. It was me and James surrounded by the people we love and the ones who love us most. Neither my dad nor Ellie were there. Following our last talk, where I told him I didn't care if he was present, it was complete silence from him for just over a month. I took my dad's silence as his mind made up, and I actually felt at ease with it, which was another huge wake-up call. He finally messaged me in October and asked to talk over the phone. I told James, and he said to do it and use the opportunity to make my final choice on the matter and set it in stone. So we spoke. He asked that I allow Ellie at the wedding. I said no. He said that he wouldn't come if she wasn't there, and I said I didn't care. We went back and forth for a little bit, mostly just repeating ourselves, until he basically said, "Is this really the hill you want to die on?" I said yes, told him that he had a week to give me a simple yes or no as to whether he would be there, and hung up. He messaged me a couple of days later with a long paragraph about how I was giving him ultimatums, making him choose, holding on to the past, petty and disrespectful, etc. And something snapped. I said that he had more than enough chances to attempt to make things right, but that I was done, and blocked him. On the day of my wedding, I tried not to think about it, and it was honestly easier than I thought, to the point I didn't realize he wasn't there until midway through the ceremony. I was hearing from mutual friends and family that my dad has been pretty silent on the whole thing. Other members of my family and close friends were present at the wedding and asked why my dad wasn't there, and I just told them it was a story for another day. Not something I wanted to get into on my wedding. Honestly, this entire situation is just draining. I've known for a long time that it would end in flames at some point or another, and I'm not entirely sure why I held out that little bit of hope for so long. I genuinely feel at peace for the first time in years, and relieved that I no longer have to deal with him or Ellie. I'm in bed with my now husband writing this post and feeling better than ever. I've realized I gave him too much of my time and patience when he didn't deserve it. This toxic chapter of my life is done. I'm more in love with my childhood sweetheart than I thought was possible, and can't stop grinning at the fact I get to call him my husband. Again, thank you so very much for all the responses. You're all a lot wiser than I am. Have a great day, everyone. Now for some clarification. When asked about her half-siblings, she mentioned they're both young, under 10. She was out of the house as much as she could be while they were growing up and left as soon as she turned 18. So she can't imagine they have much recollection of her being around. Am I the idiot for calling out entitled boomers who demand a buffet at our favorite Asian restaurant? My guy and I have a favorite Asian restaurant around the corner from us. We drop by a few times a month because the food is great, the servers are so kind, and the owner always stops by the table to sit with us and talk. It's like going to a friend's house. We stopped by last Thursday for dinner and saw a "We have no buffet" laminated sign on the door. When the owner came over to chat and we asked her about it, she took a deep sigh, rolled her eyes, and pulled up a chair. Apparently, since she opened the place 25 years ago, people have come in expecting an Asian buffet. She's never had one. People looked around, saw that it's a small place and no buffet. They'd leave. She said that's changed, however. She said she's been getting a continual stream of those old people who check in with the hostess, are shown to a table, and given menus. The server comes over with flatware, water, and tea. She gives them a minute and comes back. "We'll have the buffet," they say. Nowhere on the menu is a buffet listed. Look around at the 8 other tables and 6 booths. No buffet. The owner says that these folks always come back with, "What do you mean you got no buffet? All Chinese places have a buffet." They have a tantrum, get mouthy with the server, occasionally getting discriminatory while they're at it, and storm out. But it doesn't end there. Even with the sign, the owner says she still has boomers read the sign, approach the hostess and ask, "Why don't you have a buffet?" The sign says you don't have a buffet. Now for a few comments. One commenter said, "But Asian restaurants sans buffets are the best." To which OP replied, "This one really is. There's not much to look at decor-wise, but she's had the same 3 servers for years. The food is pretty basic but wholesome and fresh, and it's on the table in no time. It's one of those places that's made with love. Seriously. She works almost every day she's open because she really likes working there. She says if she had to be home, her teenagers would just make her crazy. She has a sister who runs her own place across town. It's been a family thing. She gives us free crab cheese." Another commenter suggested, "No, we don't offer buffet as the sign out front clearly states. The sign isn't written in Chinese. Can't you read English, sir, ma'am?" OP responded, "Yeah, I can read. I just don't know why you won't just tell me why you don't have a buffet. I like buffets and you say you don't have one, so why is that? Do I need to ask your manager?" Now for the 3-month update. You might recall I posted here a while back about me and my guy's favorite Chinese place. We eat there frequently, like 3 or 4 times a month. The owner is Asian, second-generation Asian American, and it's a place she's run for 25 years with her family. It's her life, and she loves what she does. What I posted was about the irate boomers who've demanded a Chinese buffet meal at her restaurant. They don't believe her when she's never offered a buffet and get mad at her for their own inability to read the damn menu. So she put up a sign that says, in big letters, "No buffet here." Here's the update. Last Friday, we stopped in. We're greeted by her daughter, and she waved from the kitchen door. A few minutes later, after we ordered, she came to our booth and asked if she could sit with us for a bit. What's been happening is that she's noticed an increase in hostility by customers, boomers mostly, towards her servers and herself. Her serving staff are all family, and most are ESL and don't speak perfect English. Customers have been poking fun and disrespectful. Yes, even with the big 11x14 laminated sign at eye level on the front door, boomers still get shitty when they're told there is no buffet served here. One of the most recent comments was, "All you Chinese people have buffets, so why not here?" The worst part is that recently someone, or more than one person, has been calling the county health department to complain about her restaurant. Her scores are on the county's compliance section of their website, and she's always had perfect scores. Yet someone has called 3 times to complain about live animals being kept in the kitchen and butchered for food. Rabbits mostly, but someone claimed she had cats too. The health department is obligated to check out the complaints, but they know her. They know the complaints are harassment, and they close them out each time. She's actually becoming afraid for her business. Her staff is experiencing uncivilized behavior that they didn't have before. She's afraid tariffs will hurt her budgets. She says she's going to stay put and stay strong. Now for some additional comments. OP clarified on if the discrimination against Chinese was due to infection 19 or a different situation, saying, "We're in Michigan in a blue county surrounded by red. The reason we're blue here is because there's been a lot of people coming here for work from home jobs from outside the area, and the COL is still not that bad. But like everywhere else, boomers are boomers." Another commenter expressed sympathy for the owner, but suggested selling what customers are asking for if it's in high demand. OP replied, "That's not how restaurants work. Buffets need constant attention, ordering large quantities of usually second-quality ingredients, and they take up a lot of space. If the food isn't kept properly temped at all times, food poisoning is a possibility. And you have the general public putting their hands all over the serving utensils, if they use them, and not their hands instead. Boomers love buffets because they get a lot of something for less money. The quality may be okay-ish, but in their heads, they think it's a bargain. It's quantity over quality. Many restaurants put their buffet tables away during Infection 19 and never brought them back out. There are hardly any Asian buffets anymore, and around here, there are 0. When asked if OP knew anything further on the complaints against the restaurant, OP said, "Thing is, the complaints are filed anonymously. Even the health department doesn't know who sent them in. The last one was 2 weeks ago. Nothing since then. Hopefully they're done." Finally, when asked if the owner has been able to ban customers from the restaurant if any issues arise, OP stated she has banned 1 customer so far.